In a prior video, I talked a little bit, very briefly, about God boxes, but I didn't dive too much into what that means or what the implications are to you. I simply told you to stay out of them. So in this, I'm going to explain a little bit about why I refer to them as God boxes and why you want to stay out of them, and a couple of hooks or word tracks or transitions to take your customer off of those and bring them down to the lower two boxes, referring to the Foursquare, in such a way that they're comfortable, that everybody's on the same page, that there's continuity, that it's smooth, and that you maintain as much gross profitability as possible. Okay, so when I talk about God boxes, all four of the boxes in your Foursquare are all relative to what the customer truly cares about the most, and that's the bottom line. Now, when you think bottom line, I think bottom line, we're probably thinking two different things, because you are anticipating the customer's perception of bottom line. That is the difference between what you're selling the car for and what you're giving them for their trade. That's not what they care about, because if you sold a car for 40 grand and you gave them 35 for their trade, and it was $20,000 outside of what the realm of reality would be for that deal, however, their monthly payment was $1,000 a month for 72 months, they still would not buy the car, right? The bottom line is what a customer has to stroke a check for every single month and how long they have to stroke that check for. Now remember that verbiage. The bottom line to 90% of customers is how much they have to stroke a check for every month and how many months they have to do that for. Because you're going to use that in every transition, okay? So the God boxes obviously being the two top boxes in your Foursquare, one being the sale price of the vehicle and the other being the trade. Understand that all four boxes leave the same bottom line, however, the bottom two don't have to affect your gross. The top two absolutely do. If you think about a sale price of a vehicle, right? If you negotiate off of the sale price, how could you possibly be doing anything aside from cutting out of your gross profitability? You can't. And then if you're talking about, once again, the dollars of their trade, if you increase what you're showing them for their trade, whether it's relative to ACV or not, what are the chances that you're not decreasing your gross profitability? Zero. However, the bottom two boxes are variables that get to the same bottom line, that have different elements that can impact them, that don't impact your gross profit. If you increase cash down, you lower monthly payment, right? So you can negotiate cash down all day long, provided if the cash down is going down, you're also going to be negotiating on your monthly payment as well. Monthly payment has a few different indicating factors. Term, interest rate, obviously relative to the dollars borrowed. However, you want to be able to control the dollars borrowed in order to manipulate the monthly payment. So you have more avenues. Now, does interest rate impact how much your gross profit is? No. Does term? Not at all. So that's the reason why you want to stay off of your top two boxes, because you are protecting your gross profitability. So you're going to get one of two different objections that you have to transition off of. It's either going to be the sale price is too high or the trade is too low, right? Now, if you present your Foursquare in the correct way, and you say the initial sale price of the vehicle was this, we've discounted $3,450 in an effort to help get you closer to your monthly budget, all the way down to here. Okay? Customer says, no, that's way too high. Do not immediately say, well, what do I have to get it down to? It's not going to say that's too high. What makes you say that, if you don't mind me asking? Well, I've shopped around and I've looked at a bunch of different ones. Now, you play this differently in whether you're selling a brand new vehicle or you're selling a pre-owned. If you're selling a brand new vehicle, when you work in the initial sales process, when you do your proper investigation and you determine that you're actually about to be showing them a brand new vehicle, you say, God, folks, I am so glad that you made this one of your first stops, because if you have had a chance to shop around at all, you realize that we're one of the few dealerships left that believe in integrity market pricing. Availability on the vehicles is so limited right now. A lot of dealerships are actually giving them a market addendum, marking them up $29.99, $39.99, and wherever you're working, Mr. So-and-so, or here at whatever the dealership is, we don't believe in that. Whatever the manufacturer's suggested retail price is we're never going to charge our customers a penny more. So hang tight 1 second, and I'm going to pull the vehicle around. Don't try to solicit an answer to that, because you're not going to have the answers to most of the questions they're about to ask you. You want to just pull the vehicle right around, but what you've done is you've planted the seed that there's already a discount involved in the fact that we did not capitalize on the opportunity that due to limited availability wouldn't mark the vehicle up for additional profit. Now, keep in mind that just because it sounds dumb to you does not mean that it's dumb to a customer. You might be aware that there's a lot of dealerships selling for $2,000 below MSRP. However, I will tell you right now that I've been in different demographics. Go up into northern New England and buy a Dodge Charger, no problem. Go down into Miami, and they have $6,000 and $8,000 addendums on them, right? So there is an element of truth to exactly what you're telling your customers, but what you're doing is you're planting the seed so that when you get to this objection, the customer says, well, that's full MSRP. God, folks, if you don't mind me asking, when was the last time that you purchased a brand new vehicle? Okay. Now, I'm sure you guys are obviously aware that that the lending industry changed, the automobile industry changed a lot. There was a lot more scrutiny put into the automobile industry. Obviously, manufacturers drove profit margins down, and it was all over the newspapers, the news, everything. So there's very minimal profit margins in and of the vehicle itself. But with that being said, set that aside, because it's probably fair to say that if I were to charge you $150,000 for the vehicle, and I was only going to give you $2,000 for your trade, but your payment's $250 a month for 48 months, you'd probably still buy it, right? Because at the end of the day, what you care most about is how much you have to stroke a check for every single month and how many months you have to do that for. Is that fair to say? So why don't you give me the flexibility of working all of the different avenues, because there's a lot of different ways to cut the fat off a pig. So with that being said, leave me as many different avenues as possible to get you the absolute best deal that I can, rather than limiting me to just one part. So that being said, folks, where is it that you need to get your monthly payment and you're off of a God box and you're back onto a box that you have the potential to negotiate without losing profitability? Now, another thing that people say, obviously, is that's not enough money for my trade. Your response is, that's not enough money for your trade? And let them tell you why. Because once again, you don't want to volunteer anything until you know what their perception is. Well, yeah, I just left thus and such dealership and they told me that they'd give me this much for it. Really? God, my used car manager, or my inventory manager, he's been doing this a long time, and every once in a while I've seen $400 or $500, maybe $600 in fluctuation, but I've never seen thousands. So if you don't mind, tell me a little bit more about the deal. And maybe they divulge that they were on a pre-owned vehicle, and you go, oh, God. We're one of the few dealerships left that's actually an open disclosure dealership. When you're on a pre-owned vehicle, obviously the profit margin is dictated by whatever the dealership wanted to ask for it. And therefore what they'll do instead of actually really discounting the vehicle to get to where you folks needed it to be, they just show that discount into the trade value. What we do is we are an open disclosure dealership. We show you the true numbers relative to what we're really giving you for your trade, what the actual market is on it, and how much above that we're giving you for it. And then we're actually showing you what we're truly selling the car for, then how much we're discounting it already in an effort to help you folks out, and then what your real sale price is going to be. We don't like to rob from Peter to pay Paul to paint a fuzzy picture. There's too much smoke and mirrors in this industry anyways. But it's fair to say, folks, that at the end of the day, if I charged you $150,000 for the vehicle, and I only gave you $2,000 for your trade, and your payment was $250 a month for 48 months, you folks still sign up, right? So with that being said, what you folks really care about the most is probably going to be your bottom line, which is how much you have to stroke a check for every month, and how many months you have to do that for. Now, if you have to further justify, especially on a pre-owned vehicle or a trade, why your value would be different from KBB or NADA or Black Book or GALVS or any of the other book values that customers have readily available, well, what you want to do is you say, that's not enough money for your trade? Again, like you're completely confused and befuddled, like that's the first time you've ever heard that he didn't step right up and jump out the window and pay them probably too much for it. If you don't mind me asking, where'd you get that idea? What did you expect? And where did those numbers come from? KBB. A couple of things. KBB, if you actually look it up, it's owned by the same person that owns a 15 dealership auto group in California. Folks, isn't that kind of like asking the fox to watch the hens? Let me get this straight. The guy who's selling the vehicle also gets to dictate what their value is? So then you also want to talk a little bit about the fact that, folks, I'm so glad that you guys did take the time to do a little bit of research. Not, oh, throw those book values out the window. I'm so glad you folks did take the time to do a little bit of research, because those book values, they're great. They're great guides. They're a great indication to let you know what your current vehicle would be worth, but it's not always relative to demographic, and obviously they're not going to be updated quite as often as the last 30 to 90 days because that amount of data is just not necessarily possible to process. But furthermore, if you take two vehicles, say you take your trade, right, and say it's a 2010 Nissan Altima with 50,000 miles. And folks, you're clean-cut, mature, articulate adults. You have a little bit of money in reserve, obviously, and you've probably serviced your vehicle meticulously. You bought it brand new, and you brought it back to the same dealership. Maybe you purchased an extended warranty on it, so that every time that the vehicle needed anything, it was done. No cost out of pocket. You got it done just perfectly. Print out the Carfax, and everything on that thing is perfect, right? You kept it in the garage. The paint still glistens, right? Now you take another 2010 Altima with 50,000 miles that some parents bought for their kid who's graduating college, but they bought it as the third owner, right? Nobody really knows how it was serviced before that. There's not a whole lot of service records. Maybe it's from two different parts of the country. And then that kid in college lived in the city. It's got a couple of dents and dings from hard driving, stop, go traffic. He didn't necessarily have a bunch of disposable income, so when the vehicle needed servicing, he might push it a few thousand miles over the allowed mileage for whatever your service is going to be. You park those two cars next to each other. One just stands tall. It looks perfect. It still maybe has some factory warranty or still has some extended service contract coverage on it. It's been meticulously maintained. It looks the part. It stands tall. It's got great tires on it. The other one, it's a little bit rough, right? Which one's worth $2 or $3 grand more? Fair to say, right? Because which one's going to last an extra 50, 60, 70,000 miles? And when you think about if your average depreciation on a vehicle is going to be $3,000 or $3,000 a year, you drive 15,000 miles a year, that type of mileage is worth 10 grand, really. But we're only talking a couple grand. Well, what's Kelley Blue Book going to tell you both of those cars are worth? The exact same. So it's probably fair to say, folks, that vehicle out there is perfect. We've serviced that thing up to the manufacturer required specifications. We've had A-certified master technicians go through that thing with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that it is absolutely perfect when you take delivery. We've reconditioned the vehicle to the absolute best standards that you possibly could. The vehicle smells like a brand new car, right? The paint glistens, it's perfect, right? And we also offer some additional warranty directly from here at the dealership or from the manufacturer, whatever it is that you guys offer as a warranty coverage when you deliver a pre-owned vehicle, or maybe it still has some manufacturer's warranty. So it would be fair to say that if I had the same vehicle, well, maybe not the same, because you and I both know, but it didn't stand tall and it wasn't the right car, it would be worth $3, $4 grand less. But all the book values would still tell you it's worth the same money. It's really not. There's no way that a book value can accurately depict what the current market is on each vehicle. But folks, with that being said, set that aside because I know it's the perfect car. And at the end of the day, what it's really going to come down to is the bottom line. The bottom line is how much you have to stroke a check for every single month and how many months you have to do that with. So that being said, folks, if you don't mind sharing that with me, where do you guys really need to be? And you get off of that again and you're back on a monthly payment. So just a quick recap. Your God boxes, you stay out of those to protect your gross profitability, okay? You want to first receive what they're telling you, and you want to make it sound like it's completely preposterous, but not by saying that's completely preposterous, but more like it's bewildering or befuddling to you that they would even, it'd be the first time that you ever heard that you were asking too much for a car, or that you weren't given enough for a trade. And then you don't want to immediately just stuff something in their face and say, God, folks, if you don't mind me asking, where do you get those numbers? You want to find out what it is that's made them think that so that you know how to first alleviate that and then come right back around to what the bottom line is. Not what your thought of the bottom line is or what you expect them to believe the bottom line is, but what the real bottom line is. And that is the same word track. Use it, really apply it, stay out of your God boxes because that's where your paycheck's made. And if you've made it this far and you have a real commitment, you deserve to make a paycheck because you've done your job and your time is worth something. So know your own value, get better every single day, and you will actually have a lot of fun doing this.